What if I told you that 90% of ice fishermen are actively avoiding the single most productive spot in the entire lake? It sounds crazy, right? We spend a fortune on gear, augers, and electronics to find the perfect depth, the ideal structure on the bottom. But the biggest, laziest, and most aggressive predators are hiding in a place we've been taught to call dead water, a place we completely ignore. In this video, we are going to blow the lid off one of the biggest myths in winter fishing. I'll show you why that dead zone, just a few inches under the ice, is actually a feeding ground for monster fish, and I promise by the end of this, you'll be questioning every tip-up you've ever set. So let me ask you this before we start. Do you honestly believe the biggest pike in the lake is wasting its time on the bottom? Let me know in the comments, and let's see if I can change your mind. For generations, the old wisdom has been the same. When the ice comes, fish go deep, they get lethargic, they find the warmest, most stable water at the bottom, and they just sit there. So we follow that logic. We drill a hole, we turn on our flasher, and we drop our lure or bait all the way down to the bottom 30, 40, maybe 50 feet of water. We're so focused on marking fish near the lake bed that we treat the top few feet of water as nothing more than an obstacle between us and our target. It's become an automatic habit, a muscle memory for almost every ice angler out there. We see it as empty, lifeless, and brutally cold. We call it dead water. But this habit, this deeper is better mentality, is based on a half-truth. And it's causing us to miss the most explosive action happening right under our feet. Let's start by painting a picture you've definitely experienced. It's a cold morning. You've got your holes drilled. Your gear is set up perfectly over a deep point. You're jigging, watching that flasher intently for any sign of life down in the abyss. An hour goes by, nothing. 2 hours, and maybe a small perch comes by to investigate. You start to think, oh, the fish just aren't biting today. We've all been there. We blame the weather, the barometric pressure, the lure color, anything and everything, but we never once look up. We never consider that our lure is 25 feet below the real action. The fundamental mistake isn't your technique or your spot. It's the assumption that the party is happening on the ground floor, when in reality, it's on the penthouse level, just inches from the ceiling. So what is this so-called dead water? It's the layer of water from the bottom of the ice down about 3 to 5 feet. Traditional thinking says this water is the coldest and has the least oxygen, making it inhospitable for fish. And in some ways that's partially true. The water is indeed very cold, often just above freezing. But the part about oxygen, that's where the story completely falls apart. Think about it. Where does oxygen enter the water in a frozen lake? Not from the bottom. It's primarily from the remaining photosynthesis of aquatic plants and phytoplankton, which need sunlight. That sunlight penetrates the ice, making the water directly underneath it the most oxygen-rich zone in the entire lake. It's not dead, it's the very source of life. Now let's talk about the residents of this top-level apartment. The baitfish, the shiners, the smelt, the small perch and bluegill. Where do you think they're going to hang out? Are they going to go deep into the darker, less oxygenated water? Or are they going to stay right up under the ice where the food, the microorganisms, and the life-giving oxygen is most plentiful? Of course, they stay high in the water column. This top layer is their safe space and their restaurant all in one. They form massive, loosely held schools just under the ice, often completely undetected by anglers who are staring at the bottom third of their electronics. This is the single most important piece of the puzzle that we consistently overlook. The buffet is being served at the ceiling. And this brings us to the big boys, the trophy pike, the monster walleye, the lakers. We think of them as lethargic in the winter, and they are. Their metabolism slows down. They aren't going to waste precious energy chasing a meal all over the lake. So what's the most efficient way for a massive energy-conserving predator to hunt? Is it to chase a tiny perch around in 30 feet of water? Or is it to position itself just below that massive school of baitfish and wait for an easy meal to swim by? It's a simple calculation of energy in versus energy out. The biggest predators are smart. They will take the path of least resistance. They use that ice sheet as cover from above, and they use the top layer of water as their personal cruising lane and hunting ground. Your electronics are probably lying to you, or at least you're reading them wrong. Think about how you use a flasher. You drop the transducer in, and your eyes immediately go to the bottom of the display. You're looking for that thick red line that signifies the lake bed, and you're watching for any blips that rise up from it. The very top of the display, the first few feet, is usually a chaotic mess of noise from the transducer itself and the ice. Most of us mentally tune that out. We dismiss it. But that noise is exactly where a massive pike could be suspended, totally camouflaged in the signal. You're so focused on what's happening at the bottom that you become blind to the giant sitting right under your boots. Let's debunk the warmest water myth once and for all. Yes, it's a scientific fact that water is most dense at about 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. This water sinks, making the very bottom of the lake the warmest part. Many fish will indeed relate to this stable, warmer temperature. But for a large predator, temperature is only one part of the equation. Oxygen is far more critical for their survival and their ability to function. They will absolutely leave the comfort of the warmer deep water to travel into the colder, more oxygenated, shallow water, if that's where the food is. A big pike is not going to starve to death in warm water when there's a feast waiting in the cold water upstairs. It's a trade-off they are more than willing to make. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a huge, multi-story building. The heat is on the first floor, so it's comfortable down there. But the only restaurant, the only place with any food, is on the top floor, and the windows are wide open, so it's a bit chilly. Where are you going to spend your time when you get hungry? You're going to put on a jacket and go to the top floor. That is precisely what big predators are doing under the ice. They are leaving the warm basement to go eat in the chilly but food-rich and oxygen-rich penthouse. Our mistake is that we keep setting up our kitchen in the basement, wondering why nobody is showing up for dinner. We're fishing in the wrong room of the house. So how do we start catching these high-riding monsters? The first and easiest adjustment is with your tip-ups. The classic setup is to drop a heavy sinker to the bottom, reel up about a foot, and set your bait. I'm telling you to throw that out the window. For your next trip, I want you to set at least one of your tip-ups with the bait just 2 feet below the bottom of the ice. That's it, 2 feet. It will feel completely wrong. It will feel ridiculously shallow. You'll think there's no way a fish will come up that high, but you have to trust the process. Use a large, active shiner or sucker minnow. That struggling bait fish silhouetted against the bright underside of the ice is an unmissable target for any predator cruising by. The same principle applies to jigging, but it requires more patience. It's hard to stare at a flasher that shows nothing but empty water below your lure. But again, you have to fight the urge to drop it down. Start by jigging just 3 to 4 feet under the ice. Work that zone for at least 10 to 15 minutes. You are now targeting the cruising lane. A fish doesn't have to be directly under you. A big pike might see the flash of your spoon from 20 feet away and slowly drift in to investigate. You're not trying to drop it on their head, you're trying to ring the dinner bell and call them in from across the room. Stay shallow, stay patient, and be ready. The strikes in this zone are often brutally aggressive. For hours, catching the occasional decent walleye, but never a true giant. One day I was setting a tip-up and got a phone call. I was distracted and I set the bait maybe 3 feet down and just walked away, forgetting to drop it. An hour later, that flag shot up like a rocket. I ran over, fought the fish, and pulled a 38-inch northern pike through the ice. My biggest to date. It wasn't skill. It was a complete accident. An accident that forced me to realize I had been fishing in the wrong place for almost a decade. Another critical factor when fishing this shallow is stealth. When a fish is only a few feet below you, your presence is much more obvious. Every footstep on the ice, every dropped scoop, every loud noise can send vibrations directly down to them. They can also see changes in light and shadow through the ice much more clearly. This means you have to change your behavior. Walk lightly. Don't stomp around your holes. Once you're set up, try to stay still. This is especially true on clear ice or ice with little snow cover. You are no longer separated by a vast column of water. You are, for all intents and purposes, standing on their ceiling. Be a quiet upstairs neighbor. The type of day can also influence how high these predators will sit. On a bright, sunny day, the light penetration is intense. Fish might suspend just a little bit deeper to get out of the direct brightness, maybe sitting in the 5 to 10 foot range instead of 1 to 3. But on those dark, overcast, grey, winter days, that's when they get incredibly bold. With the low light, they feel more hidden and will push right up against the bottom of the ice. These are the prime days to set your baits as shallow as you possibly can, sometimes as little as 12 inches down. They use the dark sky as extra camouflage, making them virtually invisible from below as they wait for a meal. This strategy also forces you to rethink your location. Instead of looking for the deepest hole in the lake, you can start targeting shallower flats or long tapering points. If the fish are primarily relating to the top of the water column, the bottom depth becomes less important. A predator can be just as comfortable hunting in that top 2 feet over 12 feet of water as it can over 50 feet of water. This opens up huge areas of the lake that many anglers ignore because they don't have that classic deep water structure. You can find fish in spots that look boring on a map simply because the bait is there, high in the column. Think about the biology of a pike or a muskie. Their eyes are positioned on the top of their head. This is not an accident of evolution. They are designed to be ambush predators that attack from below or from the side. They are built to look up. By placing your lure or bait deep, you are forcing them to act in a way that is unnatural to them. But when you suspend a big juicy bait just a few feet under the ice, you are putting it directly in their natural line of sight. It's silhouetted against the bright ice, making it impossible to miss. You are playing directly into their genetic programming as an upward-striking hunter. Now let's be clear. I am not saying that fish are never on the bottom. Of course they are. You will absolutely still catch fish by fishing deep, especially certain species or at certain times. But what I am saying is that we, as a community of anglers, have developed a massive blind spot. We have become so obsessed with the bottom that we have completely forgotten about the top. By focusing 100% of our effort on one small part of the lake, we are missing a huge population of the biggest, most active fish. The goal is not to abandon deep water fishing entirely, but to add this shallow water strategy to your arsenal. Consider this a challenge for your very next trip out on the ice. It's a simple experiment. Set up your gear as you normally would. Put 2 or 3 lines down deep where you always do, but take one rod or one tip up and dedicate it to the dead water. Set it just 2 feet down and leave it. Don't touch it. Let it do its work. I am willing to bet that at the end of the day, that one shallow line will have seen more action, or at the very least, a much higher quality of fish than all your deep lines combined. You have nothing to lose by trying, and you might just unlock a pattern that changes how you fish forever. This shallow water pattern is often most effective during the first and last parts of the ice season. Early ice often has more vegetation that's still alive and producing oxygen near the surface. Late ice, as the snow melts and the sun gets stronger, sees a huge spike in activity right under the ice as fish prepare for the spawn. But don't discount the midwinter period. Even in the coldest, darkest part of January, those big predators need to eat, and they will always follow the food. The oxygen and the bait fish are always highest in the column, so the predators will be there too. It's a consistent pattern that holds true all winter long. Let's talk about a situation where this really shines: pressured lakes. On a lake that gets a lot of fishing traffic, the fish get smart. They see the same lures bounced off the bottom day after day. They get used to that presentation. But how many of those anglers are presenting a bait just under the ice? Almost none. By moving into that ignored zone, you are showing the fish something they almost never see. It's a new presentation in a part of the water column they associate with safety. This can be the key to tricking those wise, old, educated fish that have seen every other trick in the book. One final thought on your electronics. If you want to start seeing these high-riding fish, you need to adjust your settings, turn up your gain or sensitivity. This will make the top of the water column look cluttered, but it will also allow your unit to pick up those faint signals of fish that are suspended right below the transducer. Also, pay attention to the zoom feature. Instead of zooming in on the bottom 6 feet, try zooming in on the top 6 feet. You might be shocked at what you've been missing. You have to consciously decide to look for life in the dead water and then adjust your tools to help you see it. So the next time you're out on the ice and you drill that hole, I want you to pause for a second. Before you instinctively strip line off your reel and let your lure plummet to the depths, just stop. Look at that dark water just a few feet below you. It's not dead. It's not empty. It's a hunting ground. It's a cruising lane. It is, without a doubt, the single most overlooked and underestimated piece of real estate in the entire frozen lake. And it's very likely holding the fish you've been searching for all this time. The only question is, are you finally going to fish there? So, let's bring it all together. For years, we've been told to fish deep, to find the warmest water, to hug the bottom. We've essentially been fishing with blinders on, completely ignoring the most oxygenated, bait-rich and predator-heavy zone in the entire lake, the first few feet right under the ice. The big plot twist here isn't some secret lure or a hidden GPS coordinate. The secret is simply looking up instead of down. It's understanding that the biggest, smartest predators are lazy and they will always hang out where the food is easiest to get. That place is the supposed dead water that we drive our snowmobiles over without a second thought. This isn't just a theory, it's a fundamental shift in approach that can and will put more and bigger fish on the ice for you. Thank you so much for watching and for being willing to challenge the old ways. If this video gave you a new perspective, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks the rules. Now I want to hear from you. What's the biggest fish you've ever caught and how deep were you fishing when you caught it? Let's see how many trophies are coming from the top of the column. Drop your stories in the comments below.